Nerdiest Prime.
Riker is just minding his own business, strolling down a corridor, when a kid named Harry, who is aggressively anti-calculus, crashes right into him. Riker helps the little guy up, watches an awkward father-son argument about math, and then limps off to the turbo lift like he didn't just witness that. The Enterprise discovers the cloaked planet of Aldea, a planet previously thought to be a myth. Riker immediately gets all wide-eyed because this is the legendary hiding spot of Aldea. Think Atlantis, but with warp capability. Radu, the Aldean leader, soon informs Picard he wants the kids on the Enterprise to repopulate their dying planet and learn about their boring culture of carving wood and playing bad synth music. Of course, the crew refuse, and the Aldeans just use their superior technology to kidnap 7 kids, including Wesley. Unclear why not more, since there are clearly many more in the ship's classroom, and 7 kids can hardly be expected to be enough of a genetic pool to repopulate anything. The Aldeans offer the crew payment for the kids, and most of the episode is spent with negotiating that goes nowhere. Down on Aldea, the kids are introduced to their new families, complete with high-tech, talent-enhancing gadgets. Most of them are like, "This is kinda cool." Wesley, however, is on to their nonsense and is not impressed. He immediately starts planning a revolution. Back on the Enterprise, Data finds gaps in the planetary shield that could be exploited for a rescue op. Picard and Crusher beam down under the pretense of negotiating, but really, Crusher just wants to do some sneaky medical scans. She discovers the Aldeans are suffering from severe radiation poisoning, which explains their infertility and why they look like they haven't seen the sun in years. Eventually, Radu hurls the Enterprise away from Aldea, and it takes them 3 days to return. In that time, Wesley manages the impossible task of having the kids mount a hunger strike. Not sure if this episode writer has ever met a child in real life, but no child has ever refused snacks when they are hungry. Radu, at his wit's end, demands Picard make them stop, but Picard turns the tables, calling out their crumbling society and revealing the whole radiation thing. Radu tries to beam Picard away in frustration, but, surprise! With help from Wesley, the crew take control of the Aldeans' ancient custodian computer. For some reason, the Aldeans thought giving access to their powerful computer to one of the kidnapped kids was a smart idea that would never backfire. The crew used the computer to return the kids to the Enterprise and promised to help the Aldeans cure their radiation sickness and have babies again, but not before Harry gives a heartfelt goodbye to his would-be space dad. Back on the ship, Crusher confirms the Aldeans are recovering, and in time, they'll be able to have kids again. Picard reflects on how their legend might be over, but at least their people will live on. Just when everything seems back to normal, a little girl thanks Picard with a hug, leaving a plush Tribble stuck to his back. The bridge crew snickers behind him as Enterprise warps off to the next adventure. Meanwhile, Federation orphanages are filled with kids saying, "Hey, WTF? Can't we get clingy, lovey parents and huge snack platters?"
Hi, and welcome to Nerdiest Prime. We're doing every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. This week we're doing When the Bough Breaks, and I'm joined again by the Nerdiest Prime crew. Alan from Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Hello out there.
Lola from Montreal.
Hi.
Namir in Toronto.
Hello.
And I'm Lucas, and I'm in Los Angeles this week. And what did we think of this episode? Let's start with Namir, because he's right in front of me right now.
Me? I thought we had a set order.
Do we have a set order? I don't know.
It's Alan goes first, then if Lola's here, Lola goes first, then I go, and then Lucas goes.
Okay. Alan.
Everybody's just trying. He's just trying to get all the information from the episode out of me first, because he didn't watch it. Um, uh, yeah. This is one of these episodes where I feel like there's a simpler solution than they make it out to be, and I'll get into that later on. Um, but yeah, as for the episode itself, again, the characters are all pretty good at this point. I like the interactions with the crew. They don't seem so forced or awkward at this point. I enjoy we get to see how some of Picard with how he interacts with children. We get to see Wesley with a good performance as the leader amongst the kidnapped children, and it was a decent Star Trek story. So this one wasn't too bad.
Okay, Lola, and a bit shorter than Alan, please.
Sorry.
Maybe it's because the last few episodes for me were a bit underwhelming, but I actually really, really like this episode. I like the music a lot. I like the story. And I like the way the story was sort of built, like piece by piece. And there was actually a lot of like foreshadowing. And I just thought it was a very well written episode.
Namir.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't think I would like the episode just from what I remember, because when I first saw it I didn't like it, but I ended up really liking it, and I'm not sure why. It's just a well put together episode. So I pretty much agree with what Lola said.
Yeah, I think this episode is a lot better than most of the episodes in the first season. I don't love it, and I think maybe I don't love it because I find it anxiety-inducing, and we'll talk more about that when we get into our conversation. And then also, this is one of the first episodes I ever saw during its original run in the first season when I was like 13 years old, and so it does have like a special place in my heart because it always reminds me of my early days as a Trekkie. So let's talk about the premise of the episode. How do we feel about the premise of the episode? And just to the premise being that there is this like mystery planet Aldea that everybody's heard about, like this legend, and then it appears out of nowhere, and they basically want to steal the Enterprise's children. That's are we gonna go in the same order each time, or I like switching the order up? Just
I don't know. Whoever wants to jump in, I think Lola wants to jump in, so let her jump in.
Okay.
I suppose the premise of like a planet that's sterile and wants to steal the Enterprise kids, I like that premise could still work even without the whole mythical aspect. But I think it adds a lot because they kind of establish that this is a really advanced society, and it's also very enclosed. And they put a lot of value on art and culture, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the fact that they've been enclosed in their own sort of bubble for so long kind of helps explain their behavior. I don't know. I think it adds a cool, I think what I mean to say, it adds an interesting like lore, like history, that makes the planet more interesting than if it was just some planet that wants kids.
Well, I think it's interesting, having that mystical aspect. It like when Riker and Picard get super excited into the possibility of solving the mystery, we get the seeds of Picard's love of archaeology, which is as we know, will become a major part of his character. And not so much Riker, but it was a little weird that Riker was so into it, because I feel like Picard, when I think about what comes after that, Picard would be the one that would be super psyched to solve this mystery. But yeah,
well, I feel like that's something that they developed over time, and so they probably in Contagion in season 2 is when they really started leaning into Picard the archaeologist. And I think if they had planned it out, they might have reversed that first scene where it was Riker on the bridge calling Picard. It's like, hey, Captain, I'm sure you really want to hear about this mystery planet, because I think you know what it is. It's Aldea. He's like, Aldea.
Yeah, well, I think watching this show is kind of like Scott and Steve with the Enterprise instance with their rewatch of TOS. Is like when I rewatch TNG, I'm seeing, I'm piecing things together from the early episodes, which probably weren't any sort of intention of the writers at the time. But then you see like, oh yeah, it kind of it connects nicely to what's to come later on. So, I have fun finding those little moments.
Yeah, I like the premise. I really liked the opening, and I kind of wish the whole episode was about space Atlantis. Them trying to find, following some breadcrumbs, and then all of a sudden they find this planet that appears out of nowhere later on, right? Like I think that mystery was really interesting, and they just kind of they're like, hey, have you heard about Aldea? It's Space Atlantis. Oh, there it is. And then they go, they go into this subplot, or the main plot, which is the kids, which I actually did not find that interesting. I can relate to it a little bit more because I'm a parent. So there was a little bit of a different angle, which I didn't come at originally, right? Because I was a kid. So I could connect with it a little bit more, but the mystery of Aldea, like the computer, and I guess we'll get into that. All that stuff was much more interesting than them wanting to, kidnap kids and teach them how to be unemployed artists.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of the original premise of this episode of a long, sort of forgotten civilization, or this legendary planet that a mythical planet that nobody's seen before but only heard of, kind of reminded me of a lot of episodes from the original series. And this is, I think, like a throwback to the original series. There was a lot of it in the first season of The Next Generation, because they were still trying to find who they were, and they were kind of leaning on what they had done before. And I like that element, but I think I agree with you, Namir, like if it had been exploited a bit better. And I think probably because of the budget limitations, the fact that you don't actually get to see the city, you just get to see a couple of rooms. It's a little bit too bad, because it probably is more like Cloud City or something, you know what I mean, where a lot of stuff is going on, and I think the episode suffers basically because of it. And I found that the parent part, the children kidnapping element of the episode really, even as a kid, anxiety inducing, like, oh my God, all these parents don't have their kids anymore. And anyways, what do you guys think about that element, the plot element of kidnapping the kids, and how that kind of worked out?
One of the first things...
No, go ahead.
I've never noticed this about this episode before until now, but it struck me funny. Was like, are these aliens really like racists or Aryans or something? Because they only take the white kids. Did you notice that in the schoolroom? Like, there's African American kids, and there's Asian kids, and they only take a bunch of white kids. And I was like, oh, that's strange. I'm like, why would they do that? And it just kind of threw me, because I'm like just thinking about, how ethnically diverse and stuff the Star Trek universe is, and then, I just noticed this. I'm like, wow, they really pinpointed all the white kids in the classroom on the ship, and I was like, that's I don't know, that made me think of like, what's up with these people. But
I don't know. That's a good point. I never noticed that until just now. And so.
I know, and now sure. Now I wonder if it makes me a bad person that I never noticed that before.
It's the first time I've ever noticed that. I've watched this many times, but and the fact that they only take 6 or 7, I guess, counting Wesley, which I found kind of odd, because I'm like, there's many more children, on
Yeah,
the
I think
ship.
that's
But I'm like, is there only like a handful of? We never really get a feeling of how many people are on the planet. Like, is it just like a dozen people? Like, and they only want like 6 kids or whatever? But because
well,
it seemed
Troy
like,
says,
why don't you just
okay,
take them
so
all?
at the start, Troy says that there's thousands of people on, like she can sense thousands of people, right? So I think
Okay.
that's who's left. There's thousands of people left, but they only take 6, and there's no way they're going to repopulate their entire civilization.
It's
off
too
6
shallow a
kids.
gene pool. You
I
can't
know,
repopulate
right?
a planet. You need at least 26 people. You need
Yeah,
you need 36 females and 20 males for.
It seemed like a weird plan, and I guess my other issue I have with this episode is that is there no orphans in the 24th century? I'm like, why didn't they just say, oh well, we're a federation of hundreds of worlds, and we have lots of kids who are looking for families, and would love to come here and live in peace and luxury and love and learn all these skills and. It's like they don't even offer up. I'm like, oh, there's all sorts of homeless children. Worf was an orphan, so orphans must be a thing still. So I'm like,
well, they don't
why?
want Klingons. He's too brown.
Maybe.
Okay, Lola.
So like,
Yeah.
I know that they have the small amount of children that they choose. Doesn't work scientifically, but I think it works for the story because then you kind of get to know each kid. And I think the idea is that you hopefully you feel for them and you root for them, right? So I think it works for the story, but I do agree it doesn't work like when you really think about it. But like I don't know if the orphan thing would work either because they scandal the kids, and I think they were like, oh, this one has potential to be an artist, and this one has potential to be a musician.
Well,
So I think
orphans don't have a potential to be more than they are.
That's not what I meant. No, they have to do breadcrumbs, so clearly they don't want to leave the planet. So the most convenient thing they could do was like attract a nearby ship. Although, I don't know. I think I'm just trying to understand it.
I know. Honestly, the more we talk about it, the more I realize that there are a lot of plot holes. There's more things than I originally thought. Because really, I actually, but the thing is, I there may not be orphans, right? Because it's kind of like the same thing. Like there's no money, right? Like maybe when there's an orphan, they automatically get placed with, some family or something.
There
You mean
was
there
an
are
orphan in the 3rd season when his mom got killed in that away mission.
But
don't know.
Worf adopted him immediately.
But I'm just saying,
There you
there's
go.
kids up there that want parents.
Or maybe the orphans that don't get adopted get turned into Soylent Green or something.
That's because, but like these Aldeans,
to
they
feed the
seem like
replicator.
reasonable people.
That's what everyone's eating on the spaceships with the replicator. The orphans.
What happened, Namir?
He would took a dark turn. Jeez.
I'm just saying, maybe it kind of makes sense economically.
After you watch that one Strange New Worlds episode, now it's like
It's all
Now
about
you-
children, death of children. Yeah.
you're completely corrupted now. Everything's on the table. Once you plug a
right.
child into a computer and turn into a digital slave, then anything you can just do anything you want.
Exactly. They're a resource. They're a resource to be harvested.
The Danes were a very reasonable people, and if they had said, "Oh, well, we got a bunch of space orphanages all over the Federation," I'm like, and it'd be like, "Wow," it's like, and this could have been solved in like 5 minutes. I'm like,
But I think, but I think it spoke to the kind of people they were. I think their problem was hubris. That was their what's the opposite of a quality? A fault. That was the fault that they had of their society, where they basically had this super advanced society. It had been super advanced for thousands of years going back, and they were just so full of themselves. So I think what happened is they realized they had this problem. Oh, we need kids, and instead of thinking it through like, well, this is what we'll do, we'll ask for help and we'll send out some ships or whatever the thing that would be something more sensical. They just basically said, well, we're just going to do it our way. So they kind of like lured a ship in.
Oh, no, boy, were they lucky that they brought a ship by that has tons of families on board, because, I mean, most spaceships don't have families, so...
You know what
They really lucked
confused me? What confused me about this episode when I first watched it was, they're like, this is a really, really advanced society, and they've been advanced for thousands of years. They have technology we couldn't even dream of, or the Federation couldn't even dream of. So you're telling me they couldn't like make babies in tubes? You know what I mean? Like they couldn't just take DNA and like just make the babies in tubes. Like we can do that today.
See?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Exactly. And also, why can Dr. Crusher figure out their radiation poisoning problem in 20 minutes, and they're scientists that have figured it all out, and haven't been able to figure it out for thousands of years?
Because they're all sculptors. They're all sculptors and musicians. They can't do anything. They don't know how to do anything useful.
Okay, Lola.
This episode is like very theme based. I think it's about there's like a message here, and they thought too much when they were writing the episode. They thought about like the idea rather than something that
The
makes
logic
sense.
of it.
Well, yeah, the logic, because I think the idea is like the society's biggest fault is pride, right? Like they don't want to ask for help, and also over reliance, right? They over rely on the what's it the custodian. Thank you. They rely on the custodian to a point where they just let it control their lives and their society, because it's brought them a utopia essentially up to this point, and they didn't want to have to go against it or like rethink their values or the way their society is structured. So I think in order to make this story about this society realizing their faults, there's a lot of logical things that kind of went that were just sort of swept under the rug.
That's what Amazon's going to be like in 1,000 years. We're going to be like on planet Earth, and it'll just be like, Amazon brings me everything I need. Wait a minute, that's kind of like how
What?
things are now.
No, we're all going to be working in the Amazon warehouses. That's it. We're going to be giving the robots everything they need.
It's something that you mentioned. I think the last review we did, Alan, was the idea of families and showing families, and this episode really puts the families at the center of the Enterprise and the story. And I remember when I saw this episode as a kid, it really made a big impact on me of like, oh, there are children and their families. And I have a funny story. I remember I was about 13 years old when this episode first aired, and I remember sitting down to watch this show that I didn't know anything about Star Trek at the time. So I sit down and I watch this show, and my dad comes in and he kind of grumble. Okay, I'll sit down and watch whatever Lucas is watching. And the moment where the dad says they have that meeting in the conference room, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, and the dad says,
The last time I saw him, I yelled at him.
and everybody's like, "Ooh," and my dad's like, "Ah, what's this garbage?" And he just leaves.
You know what I was thinking? During that part, I was like, that was every day. That's like that's the last time is every day.
This poor kid, though. What was that kid, like 8 years old? He may be taking calculus? I'm like, Jesus.
No, it's the future.
He's like,
They have to
I
be
hate
smart.
calculus. I'm like, I would hate calculus too if I was 8 years old and they threw a bunch of letters and numbers at me and solve for Y or X or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And the Aldeans are like, what's calculus?
That's algebra.
I don't know the
I don't
difference
know.
between I don't know the difference
parabolic
between algebra.
curve, I don't know. I don't
Algebra
remember
or
that
calculus.
well.
I don't even know what calculus is now. You know why?
I took pre-cal, but I was like, I don't remember.
Because I'm an artist, and
Exactly. We're all
I
artists.
carved dolphins. I
If
Aren't
you
you
stroke
an
the
editor?
dolphin repeatedly, you're like, oh, the dolphin. Like, he's stroking that dolphin a lot. Gee. It's like, it's polished, dude. Anyway.
What was I gonna say? I liked that kid. I realized had a little arc. Did you guys notice that? A little arc in the episode. It's like it was like a subplot arc of like the kid realizing that he's an artist.
Yeah, he had more character development in that episode than Tashiera has the whole season.
And but then it was funny because it was like he had this big realization that he was an artist, which was great. And then I was like, oh, and I was just watching the episode thinking, oh, like that's profound. Like that kid's found his purpose in life. And at the end, his dad is like, I'm so happy you're an artist. You still have to take calculus, by the way. I'm like, what? that sucks. It's bullshit.
Because you have to know, you have to be well-rounded. You have to know about all aspects of the world.
I don't know. Calculus was a grade 11, grade 12 thing when I was in school. It wasn't when I was his age, I was learning like multiplication. I don't know.
24th century, actually.
I feel like I'm as smart as these people.
I don't know about that. I mean, let's be realistic here. Come on.
Listen, they couldn't figure out that lore was not data, or data was not lore. What am I saying? I don't know. But anyway,
you can't even sort the two out yourself.
I can't even articulate a thought
it
right now.
you
they
needed more
couldn't
calculus
figure
to
out that it was lore pretending to be data. There we go.
Oh, I'm just gonna do a little trivia right here. So the two guest stars of this episode, one is Jerry Hardin. He plays Rodu, which I keep thinking they're saying Radu.
Radu.
It just makes me think of Ragu.
I know. I kept thinking of the pasta sauce too.
He's like a horrible name. I don't know why they decided to call him that.
Yeah.
But he appeared 2 more times in Star Trek, most notably as Mark Twain in Time's Arrow, and then he went on to play the mysterious Deep Throat on X-Files.
Oh, that's why I recognize him. I was watching him, I was like, I know that guy. Oh my god, I love the X-Files.
Yeah, he's
There
great.
we go. Yeah, I love.
Yeah, that's what I like about this episode too. Is we had some good guest stars, unlike last week with that bad admiral. It was like this week we actually had some capable actors in the guest.
You know, the episode last week was so bad that I couldn't even remember what the episode was that we had done.
It was
But now-
multi-faced admiral.
Yeah, I remember it so clearly. Like I watched it a week ago. Just crystal.
Liar.
I feel like that should have been part of your rating. Like it's so bad that I didn't watch it for this review.
Okay, you know what? Let's just record it now, and then you can edit it in after.
Yeah, you don't have the same shirt on.
Yeah.
I'll just CGI you. Okay, and so the other character in this is Rochella, and she's played by an actress called Brenda Strong, and I remember her as Captain Deladier from Starship Troopers. Do you guys remember her?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she gets crushed by the door.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's
I was
much.
like, I know you. You're gonna die in that movie.
Man, that would have sucked.
Yes.
Wait, did you say that movie sucked?
No, it would have sucked getting crushed by that door. I love Starship Troopers. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
That's a
okay.
fantastic
I
movie.
know. Yeah, no, totally.
So-
I would have had to have gotten a ticket to Halifax to find you, and then punch you in the face, and then come back.
No need. We're all good.
All right.
So, let me just look at my notes for a second. Oh yeah, I just found this episode so anxiety-inducing. Like, I think the episode's really good. I think everything everybody said at the beginning in terms of the plotting and the writing, even though there are huge logic problems in the episode. But I think the idea of children being kidnapped, even as a 13-year-old, was like, oh my god, how are they? It's not just really. It would be really difficult for the parents that wondering, am I ever going to see my child again? But these children, the episode was really effective in showing it from the point of view of the children of being like, okay, I'm on this planet, I don't want to be here, I'm scared, but kind of getting like Stockholm syndrome. Like these people are really nice, maybe this can work out, you know?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
Go, Namir.
no, you go. Okay, I'll go. All right. Okay, I'm gonna say. Okay, me. So I agree. Like I actually liked the stuff with the kids, and I didn't mind Wesley so much in this episode because I feel like he actually had like a believable role as the leader of the children. He made smart choices. He was doing really relatively smart things. The only thing that was kind of funny to me was when Crusher beams down and hands him the little probe thing. And then he goes around and he's like, nothing to see here. I'm just doing a scan.
I was like, how did she not notice what he was doing?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good to see you, son. Here you go. But apart from that, I really thought he did a really good job.
I also really
Agreed.
liked Wesley in this episode. I felt like he was an active protagonist, which made him like easier to like, because I feel like before he was just sort of there and things were happening, but he was just a character's more interesting when they're making choices rather than things just sort of happening around them. So I agree. I thought he had a good role.
no, that's what I liked about this premise was that it feels like this story would be the one that would come organically from just knowing the premise of the series itself from the beginning, that this was a ship with people, crew members with their families. And I think this is a perfect example of a story that I personally would think of come up with from that premise and just visit that scenarios, like the dangers of having your family aboard this ship and what could happen having them along. And so I think that premise is one that uniquely works with Star Trek Next Generation because of the fact that there's a ship full of families. And to touch on the Wesley thing too, yeah, I liked Wesley in this episode. I liked when he organized the kids to get for the hunger strike. That was really a good move on his part. It was a nice non-violent resistance, and he really pulled the group together and showed some leadership skills. He didn't come off as a know-it-all. It felt like he was contributing to the solution rather than being the ultimate solution for everything. So his like Lola says, his role as the protagonist was a lot more palatable than it typically is.
Well, and the other thing too is that I always thought that Will Wheaton was an amazing actor. Like, especially if you're considering that at the time he was like 15 years old or 14, 15, 16. Like, there's not like a huge amount of 15-year-olds who can act really well. And his acting was really good. Like, he was always believable. He acted better than some of the other people in the cast, even as a child actor. And so but the problem, as we said in previous reviews, is that he was badly written. In this episode, he's well written, and he's given a good purpose, and he's given a realistic sort of like set of what's the word?
Cookies.
what are the things? Obstacles. He's given a good set of obstacles to overcome that is believable for him to overcome them. And so, yeah. And I really like the whole, like him starting to figure out the computer. But he doesn't kind of figure out the whole thing. And the other thing that the episode's really good at is giving everybody on the show something to do. Even though, Yar and Worf aren't really used that much in the episode, but everybody has, like, Picard is the leader, and he's really good at being the leader in this episode of reassuring the parents, like, listen, this is going to be really hard, but we are not leaving the kids behind. And I thought, oh yeah, that's like straight shooter, like. It's like saying this is not going to be easy, but also we're not, being a leader and reassuring them, So
I really liked the custodian's voice. For whatever reason, I liked hearing the custodian, because it was like not, the Enterprise computer is like just some guy with a really nice voice going, "Hey, Wesley, yeah, what do you want to do? I'll answer any question you want."
I could fall asleep to that voice.
Yeah, me too.
I'll get him to sing me like a lullaby.
Yeah, or like a positive reassurance. You are worth something.
I know he. It's funny that you mentioned it because I totally felt that the custodian like gave me like warm fuzzy feelings.
Yeah, absolutely, totally. I really like that. You know, I kind of want that to be my Siri voice. You know, like my personal assistant.
Hello, custodian. I am Wesley Crusher.
Hello, Wesley. Your voice will now activate third level clearance.
God, how cool would that be?
Hello, Wesley.
I love the
I
actual
understand how you guys
custodian.
developed
The actual
strong
power
feelings for
core.
the custodian.
Okay, let Lola go first and Alan second.
Well, I just said I'm not sure how you guys developed such strong feelings for the custodian. I didn't really think about him at all.
No.
Like I said, I like the actual custodian, the actual computer core. I love when that's shot. That's like one of my favorite special effects from the first season is when they open the door and they enter that whole core, and it's the
Yeah,
just
that's great.
the mass, the scope of what we're seeing is just so massive, and you know it doesn't seem so rinky dink like so many science fiction shows on TV would depict something. They go in a little room and there'd be like a little lamp or something and in a gray cylinder, you know, like the original series. It was like, this thing seemed massive, and they were like little tiny, you know, people composited in. It was like I just like the scale of that shot. It's cool.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
that-
probably why they couldn't show the rest of the planet because they spent all their money on that one shot.
Yeah.
This giant like spinning stick.
Well, actually, I like that shot because the story behind it is that they actually had no money for that shot, and they just did some kit bashing and got a bunch of random stuff. There's like
Oh yeah, it totally looks like random plastic model pieces or something just like stuck, but it's like it looks super cool. I like.
yeah, but
Oh, it's so
because
great.
they shot it from below. They put a light behind it. They put some little bit of smoke in there, and then suddenly it was like this amazing thing. But it was just like, yeah, it was literally like just threw something together that were pieces of the space dock from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and then there were pieces of like a space shuttle like launch tower. What are they called? The gantry.
That's awesome.
So-
Yeah.
The radiation levels on Aldea have been building up over a long period of time. It is similar to what was experienced on Earth in the 21st century, when the ozone layer had deteriorated and the surface of the planet was flooded with ultraviolet radiation.
Oh, the ozone layer. I love the whole ozone layer part of the episode because I remember that's something that I really noticed when I saw this the first time as well, because that's when the ozone layer started becoming a big issue. It was in the late 80s, people talking about the hole in the ozone layer and all this kind of stuff. And I liked that. It kind of dates the episode. It makes it a very like 80s episode to talk about the ozone layer, but also kind of super interesting watching it from a point from you know, being in the year 2022 now, especially because she mentions how, oh, you know, there was some real issues in the early 21st century with the ozone layer, and
Bathed in ultraviolet radiation.
yeah,
I guess we are, somewhat.
I did a little research, and apparently the ozone layer is doing a lot better now. Just
That's
as a
what I heard.
FYI.
That's what I read too. Yeah.
But you know, it's funny that you'd think that they would like really advertise that, because it's like kind of what people need now. You know, hope, you know, that we're not just all going to be destroyed. Just segue, but anyways, what do you guys think about the ozone layer aspect of the episode?
Well, I remember hearing about the ozone layer when I was a kid and how there's a hole in it. So I still think it's kind of relevant. You know, I don't think it's totally dated.
Okay.
I'm trying to make you feel better because you're not like old, you know? I remember it too.
And Namir, do you have any thoughts? Any witticism about the ozone layer?
Anything to say about the ozone layer? No, I mean, you know, it's fine. You know, it's bad. The hole in the ozone layer is bad. I mean, I appreciate that, you know, Star Trek wants to connect itself to issues at the time. So I appreciate, you know, that was fine, great. I think that from a story perspective, I'm always a little bit confused why they didn't know that the hole in the ozone layer existed? And is it because they were relying too much on the custodian?
You already said earlier, it's because they were too busy sculpting and playing music. The scientists are like, I don't know what's going on.
So is that actually like a part of the story? Like, there's no people that know how to actually.
Well, no, because Radu says at one point, like, our scientists have been working on this, and we've turned over every stone, and nothing can be done to solve any of these problems. I'm like, really?
Right, but their scientists are like taking two rocks and going like.
Yeah, it's kind of like Idiocracy or something. Yeah, I don't know.
And remember when Wesley's asking all those questions, and then the woman's just like, "Who cares? Like, why does it matter? It doesn't matter." Because at that point, the custodian's been doing everything for them for thousands of years. It's not only the cloaking device and the shield that prevents people from beaming, but it's probably everything else, like, controls the weather and gives them their food and their clothes, and basically they have this idyllic life because they don't have to do anything. They can just concentrate on being better people, basically. But the machine itself has developed a fault, and it's causing, the depletion of the ozone layer, and because nobody cares about science anymore, basically. Nobody knows that.
Polishing their dolphins.
I like the idea of a when they call it a terminally ill civilization, because I was like, oh, it's interesting. I've never heard that term before, but it was so. I think there were a couple times in the episode where people would say like a sentence like that, and it just kind of really distilled down what the idea was. And I thought that the writing was good because of that,
Yeah, like they through their own faults destroyed their planet, basically. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. And the thing that I liked is that they didn't write a speech about it, right? Like, it was kind of really well woven into the story in a really believable way. And so you as the audience, you piece together what happened, right? Like, I think at the end, after the kid was polishing the dolphin, one of the Aldeans was like, oh, I remember fish. We used to have fish, and then they moved on, right? And you're like, oh, they destroyed their planet.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like it has a whole environmental theme. Okay, I want to talk about the kids, because there's a whole part of this episode that's all about these kids that are like, I guess, being kind of like introduced to art. So there's as the aforementioned Harry, who learns how to be a sculptor and make dolphins out of wood.
Polishing his wood.
My two neurons just made a connection. I was like, okay.
The only two neurons you have in your brain? They found each other.
They met up for coffee date.
And then there was it was funny, there was the little girl who was kind of given to the old man, and I thought, for a second I was like, oh, that's like super creepy. But then what made it not creepy was that,
I never thought that at all.
But now you mention it, it is.
Now that
he's a music teacher.
Yeah, but
they're all pretty creepy.
But as soon as the actor is what makes it work. The actor is what made it work, because he has such a noble, decent quality about him. And I don't know who the name of that actor, but he comes back later in the fourth season. He plays a scientist in Devil's Due. But yeah, it was interesting. I liked that scene. I always found that scene really memorable, where he teaches the little girl how to make music out of her mind, and she holds the
she got the little
mind reading.
Yeah.
It's
like,
did you guys
music seems really easy on this planet, actually.
Yeah, it kind of does. That's what I was just going to say. Doing anything artistic on this planet seems extremely easy. You just
I know,
you
it's
just
just like
wish
a light.
music and it happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
just,
what-
I'm just
you
like
just carve whatever
carving.
is in your brain. Yeah.
But it's interesting. He gives her the device, and the song that she composes is for mysteriously it's the music cue of Picard meeting his mother and where no one's gone before.
This can't be. You've been...
Dead, but I'm always with you. You know that.
So it's like
You
super
would notice
meta.
that. I didn't notice
No,
that.
good.
It's
They
like
just
she-
reused it because they didn't want to pay anybody for music rights. They already owned it.
Well, I thought the music in the episode generally was really nice. Like at the beginning, the music was very whimsical. Like when Riker is learning about how they're near the possible planet of Aldea and stuff. So I thought it was just sort of the integration of the soundtrack into the like non-diegetic to diegetic sound.
Exactly.
What? I don't know what those words mean.
That's because Lola goes to university.
Riker does a lot of this in this episode too.
Right?
On the bridge.
I know.
It's very awkward looking. I can't imagine standing and doing that anywhere I would be.
No.
But anyway.
I actually like that they used music from the soundtrack in sort of like the story itself, like with the girl, because it was like meta, but in like a nice, in a sweet way almost.
Well, one thing we don't really talk about at all is the music, and Ron Jones, who composed the music for this episode, I think he's amazing. Most people, if they know him, will know him because he did the Best of Both Worlds soundtrack. But he rotated with, I want to say, Dennis McCarthy, who had done the pilot. So some episodes are Dennis McCarthy and some episodes are Ron Jones. And I always really enjoy the music from the Ron Jones music episodes a lot more.
Yeah, it's really cinematic. Like it really has I don't know, it feels like 80s music in a kind of John Williams sort of way. It's really nice. Yeah, I noticed it too, and I didn't actually think about it until you mentioned it. I was like, yeah, I really did like the music.
Well, and then by the time he gets to the third season, he starts to really develop like specific themes for each episode. So once you know the theme of the episode, you're like, oh, that's this episode. That's not generic. It's like he has the the Who Watches the Watchers music, and it has very specific with this very specific types of instruments. And he made a Romulan theme. So we'll get to that when we get to the Romulan episode. One thing I wanted to mention was this episode is the first episode with the repulsor beam effect, where I love that when the guy says, just in case you think we're trifling with you, check this out, and he presses a button and that beam comes out. It's like a comet or something, and comes out and it hits the Enterprise, and it pushes the Enterprise like 3 days away. He's like, next time we'll push you so far away that by the time you come back, your children will be grandparents. Whoa.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. I like how the beam curves around the planet. It like kind of goes woo, and then hits the Enterprise, and then the Enterprise goes woo.
Yeah. And I like how when it gets to the end, it kind of skids to a halt. It goes.
They should have had
and
that
then
on the bridge or something while
no.
they're spinning around.
I know, but they did that on Tin Man.
Yeah.
So they use that same effect on 2 more episodes. Q when Q goes like snaps his fingers and hurls the Enterprise into Borg space, and then the last time is in Tin Man where the little gum tube pushes them away, and that's the episode where they're all on the bridge, they're all going, ooh. and you think it would be like so stupid, but it actually really works. Every time I see the episode, I'm like, hey, that's what I'd be doing if I was on the bridge. I'd be like, ah.
Yeah, but the part that they don't show is everybody throwing up afterwards. Like Stand By Me, just
Which Will Wheaton was in as well.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe.
I must say, going back to talking about the kids, Alexandria, the littlest one, super cute and adorable. I love that kid. I just want to. She's so cute.
she was played by twins.
Oh well, makes sense. That's typically a usual Hollywood way of doing things with little ones.
She's really adorable, but also she warmed up to the Aldeans like really quick. The lady came in was like, "We're your new home. There's nothing you can do about it." And she's like, "Huggy, like let's."
No, I totally buy that because that's the way Nora, my 4-year-old, is. She would totally leave with another family if they gave her a hug. She would run up to them like, "Yay, I love you too. I love my family, but I love you too. So I'll try you for a while." But yeah, her moments with Captain Picard were super adorable, and I love that he has a couple moments with her on the planet, and then at the end, it gives me all warm fuzzy feelings.
I love those. I love when they do Captain Picard being awkward around kids. It's my favorite aspect of his character. He's just so good at it. And he's just so uncomfortable. It's like, oh no, okay.
I can't believe this is another thing, like kidnapping only white kids. Another thing I never noticed in this show was when he turns to go back to his chair and her toy is stuck to his backside. Like I always remember him taking the little plant from the girl, the little flower. It's like, oh, it's so cute. It's like, thank you for bringing us home. It's like, oh, you're welcome. Now get off the bridge, and everyone stopped laughing. But I totally never noticed that her toy is stuck to his backside when he goes back to his seat.
What do you think everybody was laughing about this whole?
I thought it was just the awkwardness of him dealing with this kid and having to accept his flower, and he's like, I don't know how to talk to children.
And what do you think was on his back? What do you think was on his back?
I just never noticed that. All the times I've watched this, I've just never noticed that. I don't know why.
Alan just thought it was a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all.
I'm not sure because I've watched this one like plenty of times. I should have known that. But.
So I wonder, like, is Alexandra playing the long con game the whole time? She's pretending to like be sweet so that it will like Picard will eventually let his guard down, and the moment he does, she sticks something to his back to humiliate him. Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Like, why would she do that?
Well, she could. I think she should have put like a sign or something back there instead of a fuzzy thing. Yeah, or slap me. I'm from France.
Yeah. No, but that would have been too obvious. He would have seen a piece of paper, but he never would have thought of the little tribble being so. And she had to think it all ahead. She had to like put like glue on it.
Are you sure it wasn't an accident?
Well, I thought it was just like kind of static or something, since it was a fuzzy thing and he's wearing that velour suit.
No, that was on purpose. That was on purpose. I always thought that Wesley put her up to it. I always thought that Wesley was like, "Hey, yeah, just do this. Everybody's gonna find it funny."
That's another example of a Kunism at the end of a Next Generation episode. They didn't do a lot of them later on, but in the first season there was always like a little chuckle, something like humorous happening at the end of like. Didn't matter how many people died during the episode. At the end there was always a good joke.
Yeah. Like I think everything worked on the bridge in this one. It didn't feel so forced as it sometimes does in first season Next Generation.
I thought it was it's a little cheesy. Like it's just like.
Oh, but, I think it's adorable cheese though, so I like
it.
It was okay.
It's cute.
Yeah.
But it's a very 80s thing, right? To end an episode on a joke. You know, like the only thing they didn't do was like the freeze frame.
I know, yeah, it's just leak.
There's only one, as far as I know, there's only one episode of Star Trek that ends with a freeze frame, and that's my brain today. What's the gangster episode, Alan? Gangsters, like Gangster Planet. Piece of the action.
Yeah.
At the end of a piece of the action, that's the only time there's a freeze frame in Star Trek.
I don't remember the end of that one. You've out-nerded me.
Kirk says something like, the last line is Kirk saying like, who knows, in 100 years they might want a piece of action. Something like that. He does a little fake
I mean, you
Italian.
remember that, yeah.
And then
That's the only time, really?
And he goes like, and he freeze frames like this with Spock going.
Well, in a few years, the Iosians made a man a piece of our action.
That doesn't seem right. That's the only time they've ever done a freeze frame?
At the end of an episode, as far as I know, yes. Because they wouldn't have done it in any other episode after the original series. Stylistically, it's something they would have done. The only time they would have done it is at the end of like the 1960s Star Trek. And as far as I know, that episode's the only one that had it. Okay, we're going
You know
way
what I
off
missed
topic
from...
here.
Okay, but I have another off-topic thing, but I just remembered it, so I just want to say it. The one thing that I miss from the original series that I don't think they do in any of the other series is the freeze frame recap of what happened in the episode. Like they go in the credits, right? They show like stills of the episode itself, and you're like, oh, I remember that just happened.
Oh yeah.
You know, oh, that was great.
That was a very 80s thing to do too.
They
Even
do
though
that.
it didn't do it in TNG.
What they do at the end of Star Trek 4.
It's a very sitcom thing, I think, more so than anything. Well, at least in the 80s. If you're watching,
yeah, you get to relive the episode in 30 seconds.
Right, and there was always the last shot, which was Vina dancing.
Or
Do
Balak.
you remember that one?
Wasn't Balak
Or
the
Balak?
last shot? Or something? Yeah.
Sometimes
I have
it's
no idea
Balak.
what we're talking about.
At the end, in the original series in the 60s, on the credits, it was always like stills of like things that happened in the episode or other episodes.
Did anyone notice the costumes? On my second watch, I noticed that all the Aldeans wear warm yellows and browns, but all the kids wear blues, pinks, and grays, which creates a visual contrast between the kids and the Aldean people.
Cool. I didn't notice that.
Okay, you can ask your question now.
You gone right over Alan and Namir's head. They're like, oh, I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I wasn't.
I haven't taken visual design class since for like 20 years now. So
yeah.
Namir's like, I really wish
that was part of my
I'd watched
video
this
TV.
episode.
Is like design and all this stuff and how colors and shit works and focal points and all that garbage. I'm like, I don't pay attention to that anymore.
It's a wheel, Alan. It's all a wheel. just imagine colors on a wheel. It'll be fine.
I don't remember what stuff means. I just watch it for entertainment value now. But
I think that was a very. I thought that was a very. I think that was a very interesting point. Let's talk about the resolution. How do we feel about the resolution of the episode? How they solved the problem?
Well, again, it was too easy. It's like Crusher figured it out way too easily. And again, I think it would have been more interesting to offer them orphans. I'm going back to the orphans thing. Well, I mean, you can't offer them up, but you can suggest that might be a good idea and then talk to the orphans and say, hey, do you want to move to this planet? If I was an orphan, I would love to live there because they seem really nice. And they don't make you do anything except art. Well, you want somewhere to be your home, though. Why would you want to leave? You want to move somewhere nice? If you're an orphan, you say all you want is a home.
How do you know that?
I definitely
they
would
move to a whole planet. I mean, that's a lifetime's worth of exploration.
I totally would have moved to that planet.
I would have too.
They would have been. I would have been kidnapped me.
If I wasn't an orphan and had the parents I have, I would have moved to that planet.
That's what I'm saying. I was watching that episode. I'm like, just take me. I'll go there. That place looks amazing.
Like, man. But yeah, that's all I thought. I was like, and it seemed weird too that because at the end, you know, Radu kind of has a big change of heart, which seemed a little abrupt when he was so adamant that they were right, and you know they weren't going to convince him that there was anything wrong with their scientist findings, and then he has this like change of heart, says, please help us, please let the Federation help us. And I was like, so he's like super into getting Federation help, but I'm like, it seems like, you know, after this episode happens and the Federation would send in their scientists and medical people to help them out, that, am I still online? Because everybody seems to have froze. Oh no, there you are. Okay, it's just my internet.
We're just listening to you.
It seems that
we're
if the
enthralled.
Federation had to send... Yeah. So get back to my train of thought. If the Federation had to send all their scientists and they were going to share their technology, it seems like they had so many wonderful things. Like, how come none of this stuff became Federation standard? Like repulsor beams that could knock people, a generation away, or cloaking technologies that would shield a whole planet. Well, I guess they said that causes ozone deterioration, but still, there was all this. They said they had all this stuff that would send the Federation like hundreds of years past where they are, technological wise, and it doesn't seem like they improved much in the years following through the shows we've watched.
That's a good point. I had never thought of that before.
So they're basically ready to sign over all their knowledge to get help now, and I'm like, man. Or maybe they just had a change of heart afterwards and said, fuck it, we don't want to live. We're going to take our technology to the grave.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, even if they're able to stop, they fix the problem in the ozone, and they don't, they're not terminally ill anymore. They still have the problem of not having any kids, right? Like, they don't have, like, it seemed like most of their population was super old, right? So they don't have young people to start families other than, Rochelle or whatever her name is. Right? So they
was the sterility cured?
I don't think so. I feel like once you're sterile, you're sterile.
No,
right?
Because Dr. Crusher mentions that all the damage could be reversed. So I assume they just did a bunch of hand waving, and say, "Oh yeah, we can fix them. They'll be 100%."
It's because it's genetic damage. It's not like the UV coming through the ozone is changing their genetic makeup. And
no, because Crusher says if these kids stay here, the same fate will happen to them, implying that they're sterile because of the radiation, and that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Reduce said it was genetic because he didn't know better.
Yeah, but they mentioned at the end that they fixed the ozone.
But that's not going to fix the problem.
But she's going to offer them the medical knowledge to,
Yeah.
Well, no, because what Namir was saying is that the ultraviolet radiation is affecting the chromosomes in the gene, so that's what he meant by genetic.
Oh, sorry.
But they fixed that at the end. They said they fixed the ozone holes, like Data says that. At the end.
Well, yeah, but the damage has already been done.
Well, and then Crusher says that the damage is reversible and she can fix it and make the bet 100% again. I don't know how, but they say these things, so I assume that they happened and that they're good to go.
At least they didn't plug a kid into a computer.
That's true.
Suck his life force out.
Yeah.
What's happening over there? What just happened? What's going on?
I know Lola needs to watch that episode with the kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, I have Crave now, so I can watch Strange New Worlds.
There we go. Okay, one last little bit of trivia before we go to our ratings. The director of this episode is Kim Manners, and this is the only episode of The Next Generation or of Star Trek that he ever directed. But then he went on to direct 52 episodes of the X-Files, including the finale, and was promoted to co-executive producer on that show. And then he worked on a little show called Supernatural, and he was the director and co-executive producer on that show.
Which finale of X-Files? Didn't it have like 3? kept getting
the fifth season
kept getting rebooted.
Season 5 is the
Revived,
real finale, right? Yeah. And then no, it's season 5, and then it goes into the movie, and then the movie's the end of the show.
No, what? No.
I only watched up to season 3, so I don't know.
I think they went up to season 8. I think.
No.
And then in the first, and yes, but Mulder.
Namir's saying he's not paying attention to the rest of it, I assume.
No. Up until the movie, the first movie, that ends the arc. That ends the original arc with Mulder and Scully, and then after that, they were just like, "Hey, well, I like money. Let's make more seasons."
It's not the way.
Well, that ends Mulder's arc with his grief about his sister, but he still has much to explore.
Does he?
Like having a baby with Scully? Is that what happens? I don't know. I didn't watch past season 3 again, so what do I know?
Yeah, I think that happens. I don't know. I feel like
It's
it's
like season
multiple times.
9 or something. It's like silly. It's ridiculous.
That's when the T-1000 becomes
I don't
popular.
consider anything after like season 8 real. I think that was just like a.
It was all a dream, like Dallas, like JR getting shot.
Who's JR?
Namir's just dating himself severely.
That was amazing.
It was a big deal in the 80s.
It was a big deal, Lola. You just weren't
Okay,
there.
I'll just Google it.
Look it up.
I'm more Who Shot Mr. Burns because these two are older than me, so I don't care about
I
who
remember
shot
who
JR.
shot Mr. Burns.
Well, I remember Who Shot Mr. Burns, but I don't remember who shot
Wait,
JR.
who did shoot Mr. Burns? Who shot Mr. Burns? I forgot.
It was,
Maggie shot Mr. Burns.
It was Lee Harvey
Who?
Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald.
No.
Lucas doesn't know nothing about The Simpsons. Maggie shot Mr. Burns.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember. It's the one you least suspect.
Yeah, no one's going to convict a baby. Maybe Texas.
Who's JR?
It's
From a French photographer.
No. It's a TV show called Dallas, and JR was one of the main characters.
So he gets shot at the end of one of the seasons.
Yeah, it was
and
big for
it
moms
was
and
like a
dads
big
back
mystery.
in the early 80s.
Right, it's Bobby, isn't it Bobby? I don't know. Anyways,
No, it's just like All a Dream or something.
No, that's it. No, that's what. No, it's not all a dream.
No, you're thinking of St. Elsewhere, I believe. It was that the show that it was all a dream.
November 21st, 1980.
Dallas wasn't a dream. It was St. Elsewhere.
No. But the shooting was a dream.
Was it?
Like the next season, it's like he didn't actually get shot. It wasn't shot. It was killed. Who killed JR? Because he dies.
Oh, and that's a dream. Yeah, but did you ever see the last episode, the finale, the series finale of Dallas?
Never.
For some reason, I never watched Dallas, but I did watch the season, the series finale, and it was basically JR by himself, kind of like Scrooge, and this angel shows up, and says, "No, don't." It's kind of like, don't kill yourself, and let me show you all the people you helped. So it's like totally like It's a Wonderful Life, and he goes and he shows him this and shows him that or whatever, and then at the end of the episode, JR goes like, yeah, but really what you're showing me just shows me how awful a person I was. And then the angel, like, his eyes turn around, it's like, that's because I'm the devil. Do it.
Yeah, Who Shot JR was from 1980. See, that was before I was even born. The show featured Dream Season, which was the entirety of season 9. It ran for 14 seasons. Jesus.
That makes sense.
Yep. And then there was a reboot, a recent reboot.
I never watched shows. We weren't really drama people in our house. Dad watched a lot of sitcoms and sci-fi, and that was it.
Okay, let's do our ratings. The ratings for When the Bough Breaks. Let's start with Alan.
This one is it's a pretty good offering for the first season. It's not particularly great in the grand scheme of what's to come, so I'll give this one like a 6 out of 10. It's like, I liked it well enough, but I was entertained. But again, it was a middle of the road episode.
I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 because I really enjoyed it, despite its logical problems.
I'm kind of with Alan on this. I'm gonna give it 6 JRs, just because I like the episode, but it's good sci-fi, but it's definitely kind of middle of the road, but enough that I enjoyed watching it. And I love that scene at the end where they see the custodian computer.
The innards of the custodian.
The innards.
I will also give it a 6 out of 10 because I liked it. There was a lot of good things about it, but it falls just a little bit flat, and there are many more better episodes in the series to come. So if I rate all these shows at 7, then that doesn't give a lot of wiggle room for the really good ones. So I'm going to give it a 6. So, next week we'll be back and we'll be reviewing a classic The Next Generation episode called Home Soil.
Is it Home Soil next
With
week?
my with my fellow ugly bags of mostly water.